in another pretty successful program. We have our first volleyball coaches corner of the season, and it is Sarah Lowe of the Beaver Local volleyball program. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Coach, I mean, let's first and foremost, I guess, start off with a meet the team segment, because we know there was a decent amount of seniors that were lost from last year. From you as a coaching standpoint, what do you have to do when you have to kind of press that reset button and kind of find a lot of new pieces to fill some holes?
Well, luckily, my job in that aspect is pretty easy, because my underclassmen and those who move up, they understand the expectation and they work extremely hard. And even though we've lost a lot of our starters as we're filling in positions to start this season, those kids are working extremely hard. And I think last year's group of seniors has set a great example for these upcoming athletes. And I think they plan to follow in their footsteps.
I mean, it's definitely hard to lose a senior class like that. But like you said, they leave a legacy. So how much have you seen the footprints of last year's seniors already in this group of being with them in the summer and knowing that they saw their work ethic and they're carrying the examples that those seniors left on this team? How much are you seeing the footprints of last year's seniors on this group already?
This year's incoming seniors have stepped up exactly where last year's left off. The leadership has been exceptional. Just the positivity, the energy, the knowing that it's now their turn to step up in that role and to create some of the accomplishments and just follow along in that same path that we've had over the last several years of tradition. And our defenders are pushing each other nonstop, and our hitters are working extremely hard. And like I said, I think this year's senior class is going to really do some good leadership type roles.
Who are some big names that we should be looking out for that are going to be taking the world by storm in your opinion coming up in this season?
Well, the good and the bad of it is, since we're replacing basically our whole lineup, losing 6 starters and having only 3 that had a key role last year coming back onto the court, we're going to have a lot of room for movement this year. We're going to be led by 5 key seniors, a couple of which are hitters, some strong defenders. We have a really good serving specialist coming in. We have 8 juniors, most of which are going to see some varsity time at one point or another. And I'm also excited that I think we're going to have some sophomores really impact our starting lineup this year. So we're going to have some youth to us, but it's going to help us to build over the next couple of years. And it's kind of going to be, I don't know when I want to say a revolving door, but we're going to have a lot of athletes playing in for positions. And I think that's a good problem to have, knowing that all our kids are working that hard, that they're all in prospect to play.
And you know that you're going to put these new kids in tough situations on the jump. Your schedule, like always, is a tough one. You really schedule up and to prepare them for the postseason. What are some big names that pop up on your schedule, teams you're excited to play? And then also, what's the conference look like this year? And who do you think are going to be some of the big obstacles to keep Beaver Local from winning the conference?
Okay. Well, I'd say let's start with our local hometown teams. I would say one of our biggest competitions this year is going to be both East Liverpool and Oak Glen. Both are coming back with kind of a developed starting lineup. They were both a little bit younger last year, and so they have a little bit more under their belt than we do coming into the season. East Liverpool's got strong hitter Kaya White. Oak Glen's got Ashlyn Six. And just because they're local rivalries, I think those will be great matchups for us throughout the season. In terms of other tough defenders that we've got, we'll be facing Claymont again this year, who last year we took them 4 matches, both times that we saw them, once in the season and once in the postseason. And we were unable to capture that win, but we've got them back on our schedule this year. So we're hopeful that we can come out and give them a run for their money and end up on top. And then we've added Dover to our schedule this year. With some of those changes, we were hoping that would help us come postseason this year. But there's also been a lot of divisional changes where we've seen a lot of teams move up and down. So when we look to our postseason, we're still in that super sectional, but some of our tougher teams such as Claymont and Meadowbrook, they have now changed divisions. So I would say John Glenn is probably somebody who we want to look out for down the road here, and probably Riverview. And lucky for us, we'll get to see John Glenn here in a scrimmage in just a week or two.
And you talk about so many players that need to get experience too, but you said it opens a door wide open. Do you think these kind of scheduling games, and do you see the schedule to be beneficial for these younger players before a tournament time? And what are some key points you really want some of these players that are stepping into a starting role the first time? What are some key points you want them to really learn on this regular season into the tournament?
I would say a big thing is we talked about, we're going to be in some long rallies this year and we're going to play against some tough teams. And our thing is going to be making sure that we're reducing our unforced errors to be successful. And, if we can keep a positive mindset, people coming into the season, including some athletes, they're like, Coach, do you think we're going to win games this year? There's never a game that I would step onto the court with my team and not think I can win.
Right.
Our strategies might have to be a little bit different as we're going to be defensive heavy compared to offensive heavy. But I can tell you our hitters are going to make an impact and our defense is going to win games. And with that, we know we're going to be playing in, potentially some 4 to 5 set matches this year. And we're going to condition and we're going to prepare for that accordingly. We've set up some really tough scrimmages coming out. Like I mentioned, John Glenn, we're going to see Tusky Valley, some of the top teams in the state to help us prepare. And we know that we're going to take each one of those as a learning opportunity. Throughout the summer, we work with Crestview, who had a solid team, made a great run last year. They're returning 2 great players in Auer and Emch, and we've had an opportunity to kind of train with them throughout the summer. So I think we understand that we've got some growing pains to kind of go through, but it's not a challenge that these girls won't accept.
I mean, when you look at the scrimmage schedule that you've put together in these next couple weeks, gotta imagine for a sport like volleyball where you don't get a lot of practice time in the week because you're playing games at such a rapid pace, these next couple weeks are really important for you as a coach and a coaching staff to see the development. What do you want to see out of this next couple weeks for your scrimmage season, and what are some outlying goals that you have as a team to complete before the season starts in your scrimmage schedule?
I would say each time that we step up, just to be better than we were the game before. These are meant as stepping stones as we head into the season to begin that climb uphill. If we can show improvement, like I said, one big thing is we're going to be keeping track of not the score on the scoreboard, but you'll see us on the sidelines tracking earned points versus unearned points. If we can reduce our mistakes every time we step out to play, we'll be successful. We're also going to be putting a key focus on our serve receive percentage. How many times are we executing that first ball that comes over the net? Focusing back on some of those little things, not just the big outcome of the final hit during a play, is going to be an important role for us this year. And I think as we see each of the competitions over the next couple weeks, our goal would be to keep bettering those percentages and those numbers building up to our first game of the season.
I asked previous Coach Kosik, this question. I want to extend the same thing to you because in your life, sports has obviously helped shape you in several ways too. So what's some advice that you've received prior to your coaching career that really stuck with you as a coach going into this, into coaching, I guess, at Beaver Local?
I'd say probably every coach that I had coming up through was impactful in one way or another, whether it was through their knowledge, their love of the game, even some key moments where maybe I would have messed up and I've got a lecture or two and some lessons, some tough lessons I learned that way. But I would say probably one of the number one things that stood out to me was actually one of my freshman coaches. It was Robin Thies. Her just passion for what she did, and most importantly, her caring and understanding for each one of her athletes and being there for them and helping to build that character piece is something I will never forget. And that's something that I hope to mimic each year as I get a new group of athletes, is making sure that, number one, they don't know how much I know, but how much I care.
We know that every team is different than the year before, especially this year with so many new faces. You've had a chance to hang out with them and spend time with them over the summer. Define this team's identity and what makes them unique from other teams that you've coached.
Oh, that's tough because I value every team that I've had an opportunity to coach, and they do definitely all stand out. I would say this group is unique, fun, a lot of energy, quirky. We spent our season, and you watch them on the sidelines, and they're over there dancing, or we were up at a Cedar Point tournament, and I look over on the side, and when we killed off a ball or we got an ace, the kids are over there pretending like they're bowling or hitting balls out of the park. I think just the energy and the fun and the positivity that they're bringing with one another, it's going to stand out. And we got to spend a day in Cedar Point Park afterwards and just watching them laugh and giggle and get on each other. I feel like, every year I don't think our bond can get any stronger. And yet these guys continue to surpass expectations. I mean, they're just such a tight-knit group, and they truly care about one another. We have a player who shows up, she's not there 15 minutes before practice. They're all calling her. Like, I don't even have to do that. I mean, they truly watch out for one another.
I mean, it must be such a proud moment for you to see so many girls of different personalities still come together for that common goal of tradition. What's your advice as a coach for maybe some coaches just getting into coaching a sport, of kind of building that tradition and getting kids to buy in from all sorts of different personalities to fight for that one common goal?
I would say what you do mimics how they're going to react. You have to show them and model for them as a coach. Even though some days you may not feel like it, there's days that the players don't feel like it. You got to show them how much you care. You got to show them how involved you are, how hard you're willing to work, what you're willing to devote to them. And in turn, if you're willing to run through the brick wall for them, I feel like they'll do the same in return. As an educator, I kind of have that same philosophy in my classroom. If I care, if I set expectations high, I think that my students will react, and I think my athletes are the same way. I think when they see what I put into things and how much I care about each one of them, I think they respond accordingly.
One of the things that we've learned very quickly, but covering Beaver Local as long as we have, is this administration supports their athletics, no matter what it is. And definitely with your volleyball program, as successful as it's been, that you get a lot of support from the administration. I want to give you the chance to kind of shout out the Beaver Local school system and how much they've supported this program and how big of an asset they've been in building it to what it is now.
Tell you what, our school administration team has been great. Anything we need, if we go to them, they're always willing to listen, help us come up with a solution, from our principals and Mike McKenzie and Jim Ricardo at the high school level, even our middle school principals and, the positivity that they provide to our middle school athletes, which is our building program, and Jake Walgate and Mason Sechrist. They couldn't be more supportive. They're at games the nights they're covering, and then they're at games otherwise just cheering on the girls. And that goes without being said how important that is. In terms of our athletic director, I heard your previous coach. Yes, our athletic director last year, Bob Beam, has gone back to Springfield. He was a huge supporter, did everything. And this year I'm excited to bring in Josh Sigler as our new athletic director. He is a lifer for Beaver Local. He has done great things already in his past success as an educator and as a previous coach. And I know he'll do great things for all of our athletics as leading that role. And I'd have to probably give a shout out to our superintendent, Eric Lowe. He's definitely very supportive of all of our programs, not just volleyball, but you can find him at any sport, whether it's a home event or a 2-hour away adventure. And I think just to have that for all athletes coming from the head down is extremely important.
To kind of continue that question, we'll go right into the 2022 edition of the Beaver Local volleyball staff to shout out the assistants and some other big names that are going to be in that volleyball program.
Well, I guess let me start with my feeder program, probably the most important part, and that's my middle school program. We've had some coaches kind of bounce in and out in that program over the last couple of years, but this year we lost one of our key assets. She's still going to volunteer and be part of the program, and that's Amanda Wyan. But we are also going to be led with our two new coaches, which are Kelly Jones, who's also an educator at the school, and Sierra Thurick, who was one of my players just a few years back. And she's also coached some club ball with me. And I'm really excited to see what those two will bring, as I know they're full support of the Heart and Desire motto. And I've already seen them in the gym all summer long, and they're really doing great things to build up our program. In terms of the high school, I'm very fortunate to have my entire coaching staff back. We've changed some roles and positions as to who is where based on some life changes and some new babies coming into the volleyball family. But I have Carmen Puliano as my freshman coach, and she'll be my defensive specialist. I'll have Erin Williams as my JV coach, and she is one of our hitting and offensive specialists. I have Andrew Guerin, who will be my varsity assistant, and he specializes in setting and our defensive aspect. And then I'm very fortunate to have Sierra McComas, who is coming back as a volunteer on our staff this year, with having a new little one at home, and she's our setting specialist. One thing that is different in our program than I would say probably most other programs, even though our coaches have a freshman, a JV, an assistant type title, we're all equals, including myself. I see all of them in the same exact role as myself. So instead of necessarily, considering ourselves head coaches on a specific team, we work together and we all take a different aspect of the game, and that's where we coach our athletes.
I know the coaching community as a whole is so tight-knit, and I ask players this, who their best friend is that doesn't wear their uniform. So I'm kind of interested, who's your best coaching friend that doesn't coach for Beaver Local, that you've either had the chance to coach against or you would like to coach against?
Wow. There's a lot of great coaches out there, and I have been very fortunate to, through District 1 volleyball and through the OHS VCA, make a lot of really great connections over the years. But I would say if I have to pick out one coach to pinpoint, it would probably be Morgan Poling, who is the head coach at Oak Glen. I had an opportunity to watch her as a young volleyball athlete and see the growth for her love of the game since time she was little until she played at college at Fairmont University, and now she's impacting that high school program. Her and I, along with Jen Martin at Columbiana, have worked to kind of build up our aspect of an off-season volleyball club, and working with both of them has been a great experience of learning for them, for myself. But I would say I'd have to give a shout out to, first of all, probably Morgan Poling at Oak Glen, and then secondly would be Jen Martin at Columbiana.
Coach, we want to thank you so much for your time in previewing this Beaver Local volleyball squad for the 2022 campaign. We wish you the best of luck this upcoming season, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again real soon.
Thanks. Absolutely. Thanks for having me today, guys.
Sarah Lowe, the head coach of the very talented, very strong, and very traditional Beaver Local volleyball team, joining us on Running Point Live on the show. We're so happy that she was able to kind of kickstart our volleyball previews.
How about this, too? A special thank you to Coach Lowe, who will be serving as one of our coaches in the first ever YSN Volleyball All-Star game this fall.
Wow. We've already got our coaches set up.
We should have asked her about that in the thing too. We should have. Well, actually, you know what? Why don't we just? Here we go. We'll just pop her back in.
Pop
Coach,
right back. Go ahead, real quick.
What do we think about this thing, Coach? I mean, what does that mean to you to be able to serve as a coach for so many great athletes and be able to serve as the head of one of those teams?
Well, this is great news to me. Obviously, anything I can do to help our community and help all of our athletes, I'd be excited to. I've had the opportunity to coach all-star games in the past, and I will say that's always a great experience to see some of those athletes from different schools come together, and it's just a fun day. So if there is an all-star game, you guys can count me in.
Awesome.
Coach, we want to thank you again so much, too. And hopefully, like we said, we'll be talking to you again real soon. And I guess we'll be seeing you at the All-Star game now.
All right.
Thank you.